Apple's upcoming iPhone 17 Pro might finally do something that no iPhone has ever officially done before. And if this rumor turns out to be true, it could change the way we use our iPhones in daily life. I'm talking about reverse wireless charging, the ability to use your iPhone to charge other devices like AirPods or an Apple Watch without plugging in a single cable. Now, this is not the first time we've heard about it, but the timing of these new leaks is really interesting, because while some companies are moving away from this feature, Apple might be preparing to give it a go. Let's break this down step by step. So, where does this news come from? A Weibo leaker known as Fixed Focus Digital recently claimed that Apple has tested reverse wireless charging for the iPhone 17 Pro, but here's the catch. The leaker didn't confirm whether Apple will actually enable this feature when the phone launches in September. In other words, the capability might already be built into the phone's hardware, but whether Apple will let us use it is still up in the air. Another leaker, Instant Digital, actually mentioned something similar earlier this year. Back in February, they said Apple was testing 7.5-watt reverse wireless charging for both the iPhone 17 Pro and the Pro Max. If that's true, it means you could place your AirPods or Apple Watch on the back of your iPhone and get a decent charge. At least enough to get you through a commute or a workout. Think about how useful that could be. Imagine you're out and your AirPods suddenly die while you're listening to music, or your Apple Watch battery is about to give up right before a long day. Being able to simply place them on your iPhone and get some extra juice could save you in those moments. That's why many Apple fans are excited about this possibility. Now, technically speaking, Apple has already done a little experiment with reverse charging in the past. Back in 2021, with the iPhone 12, Apple released the MagSafe battery pack. If you charged your iPhone with a lightning cable while the MagSafe pack was attached, the iPhone itself could push power into the pack. It was a limited version of reverse wireless charging, but it showed that Apple had been thinking about this technology for years. But then Apple discontinued the MagSafe battery pack in 2023. At the same time, the iPhone 15 lineup dropped the Lightning port completely and switched fully to USB-C. Since then, iPhones have been able to charge smaller devices like AirPods or Apple Watch using a cable, but not wirelessly. So this would really be the first time Apple lets us go completely wireless for charging other accessories. What about competitors? Well, that's where things get even more interesting. Google, for example, used to have a feature called battery share on its Pixel phones, which was basically reverse wireless charging. But with the Pixel 10, they removed it in order to introduce their new magnetic system, Pixel Snap, which works a lot like Apple's MagSafe. So for Pixel users, wireless power sharing is now gone. On the Samsung side, the Galaxy S25 lineup does support reverse wireless charging. But Samsung doesn't have its own MagSafe-like magnets built into the phones. Instead, they rely on Qi2 technology, and you need special cases to take advantage of the magnetic alignment. So if Apple really decides to activate this feature on the iPhone 17 Pro, it would not only match what Samsung is doing, but actually outshine Google, which has stepped back from it. There's also another important detail here. The iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max are both expected to have larger batteries compared to their predecessors, and that makes reverse wireless charging much more practical. A bigger battery means you can afford to share some of your iPhone's power without sacrificing your own usage too much. Of course, the big question is, will Apple actually allow it? Apple has a history of testing things internally and then keeping them disabled, either for design reasons, battery health concerns, or because they want to save the feature for a future release. That's why people are still cautious with this rumor. Just because it's been tested doesn't mean it's guaranteed to launch. But honestly, this feels like the perfect time for Apple to introduce it. Users have been asking for it for years. The technology is already proven in the Android world. And with bigger batteries coming, plus Apple's push toward making the iPhone even more of a central hub for all your devices, it just makes sense. And here's another thing to keep in mind. Apple loves to take features that have existed elsewhere and introduce them in a polished, Apple-style way. So even if reverse wireless charging is not new in the smartphone market, Apple could frame it as the ultimate convenience feature for its ecosystem. They'll likely show how it works seamlessly with AirPods, Apple Watch, and maybe even future accessories, making it feel like a natural extension of what the iPhone can already do. The iPhone 17 lineup is expected to be announced on September 9th during Apple's big event. While Apple hasn't officially confirmed the date, multiple leaks and even Apple's own accidental hints have basically locked it in. So we won't have to wait too long to see if this rumor becomes reality. If reverse wireless charging does make it to the iPhone 17 Pro, it could easily be one of the most talked about features of the year. It may not sound groundbreaking at first, but for Apple users, being able to top up your AirPods or Apple Watch on the go could be a game changer. So the real question is, will Apple finally flip the switch, or will this feature remain just another hidden capability that never sees the light of day? We'll know soon enough.